ready for school. I don't want to study. I won't go to school, cried Abhay in the morning when his mother Shobha came to wake him up in his room. She stood rooted to the floor, unable to think how to persuade him to go to school. Shobha did her best to motivate Abhay for school, but she had failed miserably. होता है ना बड़ी बार, मम्मी कोशिश करती रहती है सुबह कि उठ जाओ, तैयार हो जाओ, स्कूल जाओ, हमारा मन नहीं होता. Anyways, whenever he was asked to go to school, he would clearly tell that he did not want to study. After a few days, when he was sent to school forcibly, he neither read nor wrote nor did homework despite the encouragement of reward or threat of punishment. All tricks had failed. Rather, Abhay liked to visit the seashore, which was at a stone's throw from his house. Stone's throw जानते हैं? मतलब कोई जगह जो बहुत नज़दीक हो. He usually went there at low tide and took great interest in looking at the eggs and fishes that could not flow back with the receding waves. When the sea was in high tide, he would watch it from the window of his room. Shobha often said, Abhay, if you don't go to school, your career is doomed. Even your interest in fishes and aquatic life is useless if you are not educated and well-read. बात तो सही थी. Abhay would reply, I am least interested in your books in school. I love to see life at sea only. Shobha was not able to understand how to bring Abhay about to studies. She knew that he was too young to understand the problems that he might face when he grew up. Education is the basic thing or quality for every person in the world. Without it, he cannot succeed in any field that he may choose. हम कुछ भी अपने लिए करियर डिसाइड करें, कोई भी फील्ड सिलेक्ट करें, अगर हमारे पास बेसिक एजुकेशन नहीं है और उस फील्ड की, उस करियर के बारे में प्रॉपर इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं है, तो हम सक्सेसफुल तो हो ही नहीं सकते. मगर अब ये छोटे से बच्चे को कैसे समझाया जाए. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. Akhilesh, Shobha's husband, had left for office and Abhay for the seashore. She was in the kitchen when the doorbell rang. She opened the door. It was Mr. John. What a surprise, she exclaimed, because Mr. John lived in Australia. He lived in Kerala before he finally settled in Australia. It had been quite long, perhaps over 10 years, that he had emigrated. Emigrated का मतलब जानते हैं? जब आप एक कंट्री से दूसरी कंट्री में जाकर रहना शुरू करते हैं परमानेंटली, तो उसे एमिग्रेशन कहते हैं. She could remember that she had just married then. Welcome, welcome, Mr. John. Could you recognize me? Said Mr. John as he stepped into the house and walked towards the drawing hall. Why not, Mr. John? You are the person Akhilesh remembers the most. Hardly a day passes without a mention of yours, said Shobha. शायद बहुत अच्छे दोस्त रहे थे पहले. Is that so? Said Mr. John as he placed his bag on the table and sat down. He said, Your husband is my childhood friend. We were brought up just like brothers. It's only fate that we parted. I had asked him to move to Australia, but he was more interested here. Where is he? He is in his office. I will just telephone him, said Shobha as she walked to the kitchen. In the meanwhile, Mr. John opened his bag. He had brought a sari for Shobha, a suit and a pen set for Akhilesh, and lots of toys and books for Abhay. A little later, Shobha entered the drawing room. Mr. John asked, Where is your son, Abhay? He will be just back. He has gone to the seashore. He loves to see things which the sea leaves back in neap tide, said Shobha as she began to pour tea. Neap tide एक तरह की tide है. I see. He takes interest in life at sea, doesn't he? Yes, and that's the reason he doesn't like to go to school even. All my endeavor have failed to persuade him to start attending school, complained Shobha. Just then, Abhay ran in. He stopped at the door on seeing a stranger there. Mr. John called, "Come in, Abhay. I loved to listen that you like to see fishes and sea creatures." Abhay came near and bid him good morning. Mr. John tapped his shoulder and gave one book out of the many he had brought. He was least interested in it, still he opened it out of courtesy. कई बार होता है ना, हम सिर्फ दूसरों का दिल रखने के लिए कुछ करते हैं, तो अभय ने भी just out of courtesy वो book खोली. But lo, the first picture that he came across caught his fancy. It was a large picture of a fish. He began to turn pages and looked at the pictures. It was a colorfully illustrated book. He showed a picture to Mr. John and said, "I have seen this fish." "Impossible. This book pertains to the fishes that are rare to find and are on the verge of extinction," said Mr. John. Extinction. जो स्पीशीज वर्ल्ड से ख़त्म होने वाली होती है उसको नियर एक्सटिंक्शन बोलते हैं. "I have seen it for sure, uncle," said Abhay enthusiastically. "I can show it to you right now. I have seen this fish crawl on seabed when waves have receded." मतलब जब waves पीछे चले गए. "Have you? Are you sure?" Mr. John was startled because he himself had deep interest in sea life. He knew that such fish was found only on southern Australian beaches, but was on the verge of extinction because people hunted it for its beauty, food and game. एक्चुअल में देखा जाए, जो भी जानवर या किसी भी किस्म के बर्ड्स, एनिमल्स जो एक्सटिंक्ट होने वाले होते हैं या जो एक्सटिंक्ट हो चुके हैं, उनका एक मेन रीज़न ये है कि लोग यानी कि हम इंसान उनका शिकार करते हैं, या तो उनकी ब्यूटी के लिए कि उनको सजा करके रखें प्रिजर्व करके, या उनको खाने के लिए, या सिर्फ एज अ स्पोर्ट. एनीवेज, "You can believe me, uncle," said Abhay confidently. "A couple of fishes I have sighted even today. The sea is at low tide. It must still be there. Come with me if you want to see it." Mr. John stood up. Abhay led him to the seashore. He had a pair of binoculars and a camera with him. At the seashore, it did not take long for them to sight the fish which had bored a hole in the seabed and laid eggs. उसी टाइप वाली जो फिश देखने गए थे, उसने फिश ने सी बेड में छोटा सा होल कर दिया था और उसमें अपने एग्स रखे थे. Seeing them, the fish was frightened and began to toss up and down in a bid to crawl towards the sea. Mr. John said, pulling Abhay away, "Move away. The fish seems to have been frightened." They stood apart at about 100 yards. Mr. John then took several photographs of the fish. After the fish had gone away, they searched the hole where it might have laid eggs. They soon found it out. They excavated the hole. Excavation मतलब थोड़ा सा गड्ढा टाइप खोदना. It was a round-shaped egg. They soon brought it back to its original condition. Then they walked back home. On the way, Mr. John informed, "What you have seen is the salmon fish. It lays its eggs in the mud on the seashore. It comes with the high tide and remains back at the seabed when the waves recede back. Then it spawns eggs and sprinkles its fluid to hatch it. After it is done, it goes back to sea the next day when the sea once again is in high tide. Its eggs take about 2 weeks to hatch and then they too flow back to the sea at high tide. You might wonder that this fish can breathe in and out of water and can remain out of water for quite some time. Its slimy skin does not let it dry up." तो मिस्टर जॉन ने कितनी इंटरेस्टिंग इन्फॉर्मेशन बताई अभय को कि हाई टाइड के साथ ये फ़िश सी बेड या सी शोर तक आती है, अपने एग्स ले करती है और नेक्स्ट डे हाई टाइड के साथ ही वापस चले जाती है। और ये जो एग्स हैं, जब इनमें से फ़िश हैच होती है, निकलती है, तब वो पानी का वेट करते हैं और पानी के साथ ही फिर वापस चले जाते हैं। हाँ, इन एग्स के ऊपर ये फ़िश कोई एक लिक्विड ज़रूर अपना डालते हैं ताकि ये हैच हो जाएं। और क्या खासियत थी इस फ़िश के बारे में कि ये थोड़ा टाइम पानी के बाहर भी रह सकते हैं। रीज़न बीइंग कि जो इनकी स्लाइमी स्किन है वो इनको सूखने नहीं देती, तो ये सर्वाइव कर जाते हैं। लेट्स रीड फर्दर। दे रीच्ड होम। Mr. John wanted to have a rest, but Abhay wanted to know more. He wanted to know about those fishes and other creatures that he had seen earlier. Mr. John said, "See, the life at sea is very vast and varied. Without seeing a creature, it is really difficult to tell about it. The books I have brought you are full of information of the sea life. You can read them for yourself so that many of your questions can be answered." Shobha by then had prepared lunch. Akhilesh too arrived. But Abhay was a bit thoughtful. He went to the kitchen. Shobha was cutting salad. He said, "Mummy, tomorrow onwards I will attend school. I give you my word." Shobha looked at him in disbelief while he said, "Yes, Mummy, you see, I can't read those wonderful books that I want to. I can't read them without getting education. I can't read them without going to school. I want to become a learned fish watcher." It was no less than a miracle for Shobha. When she went to Abhay's room the next morning, she found that Abhay had already taken a bath and was getting ready for school. He looked a different boy altogether. It was a pleasant surprise. No frowns and no cries. Abhay was ready for school in time. He was all smiles and enthusiasm. She thanked Mr. John in her heart for bringing about a change in Abhay. तो हमें क्या पता चला इस स्टोरी से? एजुकेशन बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है। कई बार मन करता है कि स्कूल ना जाएं, इतना बर्डन क्यों लें, लेकिन जो हम पढ़ते हैं कहीं ना कहीं वो हमारे इंटरेस्ट, हमारी हॉबीज़ और बाद में जाकर के हमारे करियर में हेल्प ही करता है। सो आई एम श्योर फ्रॉम टुडे all of us will be ready to go to school in time.